Generation X is a television pilot directed by Jack Sholder that aired on Fox on February 20th, 1996. It was later broadcast as a television film. It is based on the Marvel comic book series of the same name, a spin-off of the X-Men franchise. It was produced by New World Entertainment and Marvel Entertainment Group. Welcome back to Marvel Movie Rewind, where we look back at every live-action Marvel movie. Today we are discussing Generation X. Around 1989, Stan Lee and Chris Claremont entered into talks with Carloco Pictures and Lightstorm Entertainment to make a film adaptation of the X-Men comic book series, with James Cameron as producer, Catherine Bigelow as director, and Gary Goldman as writer, called Wolverine and the X-Men. Bob Hoskins was slated to star as Wolverine, and Angela Bassett was attached to star as Storm. Claremont also contracted Marvel Comics editor-in-chief Jim Shooter to revive the character of Jean Grey due to the character's demise in the Dark Phoenix Saga comic book storyline. However, the project entered into development hell when Lee piqued Cameron's interest in the long-planned Spider-Man film, and after the defunction of Carloco Pictures. Generation X was planned to air during sweeps, as Fox was confident it would make a strong impact, and had a budget of over $4 million. Producer Eric Blakeney hoped it would lead to further Generation X TV movies or a full series. New World Enterprises kept strong security over the script, which was not allowed to be viewed by the press. Blakeney had previously worked on 21 Jump Street and saw common ground between the Teenage Mutants and real-life teenagers. Director Jack Sholder had experience with the comics property before, having directed an episode of Tales from the Crypt, which was loosely inspired by EC Comics' horror comic of the same name. Budgetary reasons meant a direct translation of the comic was impossible. The most notable casualties were the characters of Chamber and Husk, whose powers involved drastic alterations to their bodies and would be difficult to depict in live action. Instead, the film's producers consulted with Generation X comic writer Scott Lobdell to create two new characters, Refax and Buff, and suggested that if they proved popular, they might be added to the comic itself and featured in Toy Biz's X-Men action figure range. Other changes were made to the characters in the development of this film. Jubilee, for example, was not portrayed as a character of Asian descent, despite the X-Men comics and broadcast series having portrayed her as Chinese American. Ironically, Sandra Oh auditioned for the part of Emma Frost. Now, let's talk about the production. The pilot was produced by Marvel Films and distributed by Fox. It was directed by Jack Sholder, who had previously directed A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. The pilot was written and produced by Eric Blakeney. The film was shot in British Columbia over the course of 24 days. Hatley Castle was used to depict the Xavier Institute, and would continue to do so in the films X2 X-Men United, X-Men The Last Stand, Deadpool, and Deadpool 2. Elements of Hatley's castle's exterior influenced the new versions of Xavier's school in X-Men Days of Future Past, X-Men Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. Just before the release, the TV special was testing the waters for a series of TV movies instead of a TV series. Generation X was broadcast on Fox as part of the Fox Tuesday Night at the Movies on February 20th, 1996. The movie tied for 72nd out of 108 Nielsen-rated programs. It stars Finola Hughes as Emma Frost, Jeremy Ratchford as Banshee, who he had previously voiced in X-Men the Animated Series, Amaryllis Amano as M, Heather McComb as Jubilee, Bumper Robinson as Mondo, Augustin Rodriguez as Skin, Suzanne Davis as Buff, Randall Salvin as Refrax, and Matt Frewer as Russel Tresh. It had a budget of $4 million. It currently has a 24% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb. After talks of a TV series stalled just before the release, the TV special was testing the waters for a series of TV movies instead, with nothing coming out since. The character of Emma Frost was originally meant to appear in director Bryan Singer's third X-Men film, portrayed by Sigourney Weaver. After Singer left the project, Frost was not carried over to the final film. Later, she served as an inspiration for a character in X-Men Origins Wolverine, portrayed by Tanya Tazi. She's Kayla Silverfox's sister, who displays the ability to transmute her skin into a diamond-esque form. While the trailer for the film identified the character as Emma Frost, she was credited as Kayla's sister Emma in the final film. So, she would officially appear again in film 15 years later, in 2011's X-Men First Class. The character of Banshee would also appear again in the same film. Jubilee would appear again in multiple X-Men films, but as a cameo, an unnamed character, in deleted scenes, and in concept art. The main X-Men would get an adaptation 4 years later, in 2000. With that being said, thanks for watching. Next time we'll be talking about Men in Black. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more, consider giving a like or rating and subscribing with notifications so you never miss an episode. It's free. Also feel free to check out our other episodes and share this podcast with others on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time on Movie Rewind.